a Holocaust survivor is pleading with the Israeli government to allow the Dutch great-granddaughter of his rescuer to live in Israel with her parents. Survivor Simi Leibel is asking the Interior Ministry to reverse its rejection of the residency application of Marloes Sonnenveld, who's been living in Jerusalem as a university student. Her great-grandmother hid Leibel in her home for 3 years during World War II. Well, Israeli law allows non-Jews who have risked their lives to save Jews from the Holocaust to live in Israel and become citizens. The law even extends to their children and grandchildren, but not to their great-grandkids, which is why Marloes isn't allowed to stay, for now at least. Well, we have Marloes Sonnenveld herself joining us right now. So Marloes, tell us about your great-grandparents and how they helped save Simi Leibel during the Holocaust.
Yeah, so during the Second World War, my grandmother already was involved in the whole resistance movement. And through one of her contacts, she heard about this boy, this 3-year-old boy, that needed a place he could be hidden. So at that time, she was still staying with her, or living with her parents. And they had to make a decision because they knew if they would be caught by the Nazis, many more people would be in danger. But in the end, they decided that it was the right thing to do, and they took him into their home. And actually, my great-grandmother was around my age, a little bit older. She was 23, 24, and she got really attached to Simi, and it was like, they were like a family. And after the war, they found his mother, and Simi and his mother moved to Israel. And only, I think, 30, 40 years later, they were reunited. But it always stayed a very special part of our family. Yeah, that's basically the story.
Well, it's an absolutely amazing story, and so unbelievable that your great-grandparents were willing to do something like this. Now, for our viewers watching, non-Jews who have risked their lives to save Jews from the Holocaust, just like this, are called righteous among the nations here in Israel. And there are many, but most typically don't immigrate to Israel, even though they have the right to citizenship. So when and why did your family specifically decide to move to Israel?
My grandparents already moved to Israel 15 years ago. They bought a house they built a house in the beautiful kibbutz of Rosh Hanikra. And every summer, I came to visit them, and together with my mom and brother, and we just fell in love with the country. Every time that we went back, I even wanted to go more, and I didn't want to leave. I just knew that this was a place that was so special. So the moment that I finished high school 4 years ago, I saved up my money. I told myself, okay, this is the time. Let me just try and study Hebrew and do anything I can to start a life here. So I did all kinds of things. I did some volunteering. I even tried to join the army. And in the end, 1 year ago, finally, my mom and brother also joined. So now we have all 3 generations, my grandparents, my mom, and my brother and I here in Israel.
Right. Well, you're now fluent in Hebrew. You said you studied at the university, the Hebrew University. You're not Jewish, but you were a Star of David. All of your friends are Israeli, so you've really fully integrated into Israeli society. Now, in December, you received a notice from the Israeli immigration authorities that you had a month to leave the country. What was your reaction to that, and how are you responding to the notice?
Well, it was very shocking. Like I said before, I really came to Israel in order to stay here and to build for myself a life. And I did not think that it would come to a point that they would actually give me a 1-month notice to leave the country. So the moment that I got the letter, I knew that I had to take action and do anything to prove that I'm serious, that I really want to stay here, and that I'm willing to do anything just if they let me stay.
Well, what response have you gotten from the government at this point?
I have not really gotten a response. One good thing is that I probably will be able to stay here as long as I'm a student. But the moment I stop my studies, which will happen one day, I would have to leave. And that is, of course, not something that I want. I don't want to all of a sudden have to leave.
Well, what do you say to those who claim, that it isn't Israel's responsibility to provide Israeli citizenship to endless generations of righteous among the nations?
Well, first of all, it's so special that the Israeli government even wants to have such a law. It's so special to me that it is my great grandmother who did all of this. It's very special to be a descendant of her. But if you are in Yad Vashem, you know that there are many names, but there could have been so many more people that help Jewish people. And actually, something that my mom said, which I think is very beautiful, is that my great grandmother didn't say like, oh, he can find another place. She didn't draw a line, and I just hope that Mizrael Avnim can do the same, because there are people, of course, that are not Jewish that also love Israel, but we have put a lot of effort in integrating and just shown our love to Israel and to the Jewish people. So why not let us stay?
All right. Well, your story is just such a compelling and interesting one, and it's beautiful to see how you've become a part of this country. I really wish the best for you. I hope that the Israeli government is able to understand how important your relationship, and especially your relationship, is with the country. Thank you so much for joining us, Marloes.